When you're more worried about the people inside of the ring than outside of the ring, there's an issue. Philosophically at NWA, we are about the people outside the ring.
Do you feel like taking the time away from wrestling needed to happen?
Yes, 100%.
Tim Robinson thing. Everyone talks about that.
That's testament to the writing and how good Tim is.
Damien Mizdow took it to a whole new level.
There was no Mizdow without Miz. The only reason Mizdow worked is because I was on television consistently.
I think a lot of people don't remember the time that Cody Rhodes spent with you.
We were a very underrated tag team. We tagged for a minute.
So February 2019. That's the last time we did an interview.
Crazy.
I mean, it's been almost 5 years.
The world is a very different place.
The world is a different place. We're both in different places within this world. You weren't even in wrestling at that time.
No. I had kind of completely cut ties with the wrestling industry and was happily pursuing my dreams of being an actor, and was actually making a lot of headway. Things were going very well, and this is 2019 after we had last talked, and I was actually in Hawaii filming an episode of Magnum PI.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was actually Labor Day weekend. I'll never forget it because the way the schedule worked, like I had 4 days off in Waikiki, which was amazing. Like, right, I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
And I was there for about 3 weeks. And weekends off, of course, and stuff. So it was a great time. And but on one of my days off, I was on the beach and just kind of kicking it, and phone rings, and it was one of Billy Corgan's people saying, "Hey, we're doing these episodes and blah blah blah," like explaining what NWA Power was going to be.
Yeah.
And I'm just like I don't know. And well, you already have a plane ticket. Just come on.
Wow.
So I went, okay, whatever. Didn't even discuss price with him. I was just like, I don't know. It was like in this weird place where I was like, oh, you're right. Like what I thought had like made peace with acting because, okay, this is going to lead to other projects. You know how it is, right?
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
whole game and everything. And then, and that was like the biggest role I've had to date. So yeah, you know what? I can explore some wrestling. Life is good. I've kind of made my peace with it. But then what happened was I flew in a day early, and when I walked into that studio, and I'm talking about like the pre-pandemic,
The one in Atlanta?
yeah, the one in Atlanta, for those first episodes of Power, I remember I walked in and it was like the top floor, so I got like to look down and see everything, and like they just happened to have all the lights on, and I went, whoa, like I stopped and I got chills for a second. I'm like, this looks incredible. Like it's as if the original NWA show never went off the air. And it was just like, it was magic. And I will say this, like that crowd was just magic. Like the way they we had a very deep roster then. And like the crowd just loved it. It was this weird kind of void that I think is missing in the business today. And I think now, as when we talked about like the world's a different place at the top of the interview from when we last spoke. So yeah, like, in dealing with the pandemic and, all the issues going on in society today, I think with NWA, in a kind of post 2020 world where we have like really found who we are, and may not be 100% there yet, but it's fun because like the core of who we are, like the essence of like who we are as a group, because I've never worked with a group in my life, and I've worked a lot of places that has been more, and I truly say this like in the best way possible, interdependent on each other in order for the show to go off. And like when other companies, they'll talk, oh, it's a family. And, like it's, in my opinion, it's just nonsense and it's corporate stuff because look, no, like your family is one thing and business is another thing. And it's fine. I'm not like knocking saying, oh, I'm not condemning anyone for calling whatever, but I just don't feel, having worked for any other company, that like you're part of a weird family.
Yeah.
But we don't say that at NWA because like we are, and like we all know it. It's just from the top down, and there's just such a cool place to be that I never, like the last time we talked, I never thought I would be here.
Yeah.
To where like when I have to get on a plane and it's like to go to wrestling, I'm like, oh, okay. Like I'm happy and I'm excited and like I'm thinking about what's going to happen. And, you know, it's like a passion that I never thought I would have had reignited. And I'm just very, very grateful. Like, you know, it's to Billy, Pat Keeney, who has been like really instrumental in kind of like helping me define who I am now. Not necessarily in front of the camera, because I've never needed help with that. Like, that's just, you know, a thing that's like one of the things, you know, the switch goes on and, you know, it's there. But behind the scenes, like to where like, okay, if I'm not going to wrestle anymore, but I'm still going to be there, like what else can I do to kind of give back? Because my whole thing was people was, oh, you'd make a great producer. You'd make a great, no, I wouldn't. Like I number one, like they say producers, people have said, oh, you make a great trainer. I'm like, like I'm not, because number one, all right, like based on my personality, right. And it can be a quirky one, I'll admit, as will anyone that's known me, but like, I don't have the patience, and I realize that, to teach someone how to fall down and like the basics. But one of the things like I've kind of, I think developed a strength for is like when someone has gotten the basics down, right? Like, how are you going to present yourself to an audience, a live audience and a television audience? And how is that going to make you stand out? Because like in wrestling, we're selling ourselves.
Yeah.
And God, that's actually a very deep statement. So let's just say on a very kind of like light level, you're like the commodity ourselves. Like we want to make ourselves stars. So like, how are we going to do that in a world where, you know, everyone, their gear looks similar. They do similar moves. They work similar styles. They like how are you going to be different? And I think that's something that like I've always had this weird kind of affinity for. So like helping in that way is something that like I've made peace with, because I've always said if I'm going to be an agent or a trainer, like that means I'm done and that means I'm old. And I have this horrible, like I refuse to age. I don't like it. And you know, I like, well, for birthdays you can celebrate but don't sell. That's all. That's my thing, right? So like I just try to like understand that like with my personality, I will always probably like have to be in front of the camera at some point, like because that's, or in front of a crowd, because it's part of who I am.
Yeah.
So like there's absolutely like, oh, I'm going to go be a producer. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but just given what I've learned about myself, you know, over the last few years, like, okay, like that ain't happening. I mean, like with my creativity, like it needs an outlet. And this is the most positive thing like this. And like, see, film and TV and like, it's rewarding and it's awesome, but it's like the instant gratification you get from wrestling, like as a performer, it's just this weird kind of like, all right, like when you do a scene, right? You're like, oh, I wonder if that was good. I wonder if like, like, will editing make that look good? Because like, right, we know editing can make or break a performance.
Yeah. Will it even remain in the final cut?
Yes, exactly. Right. And, but like when you finish a match or a segment on TV and like, you know, it's in front of however many people, like you're like, all right, that rocked. We're good. You know what I mean? Like
This episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. It is not a coincidence that these lights behind me are blue. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but it's in chewable tablets and it's a fraction of the cost. Now you may be saying, I don't need anything like that, and I'm not suggesting that you do, but it may just kick things up just a little bit in the bedroom for you. If you've ever had a friend talking about how good things are and can be when you take Blue Chew, now is the time to jump in on this. Your first month is free. You just have to pay $5 for shipping when you use the promo code CVV at bluechew.com. That's right, your first month for free. Just pay $5 for shipping when you go to bluechew.com. Try it out. I think you will be rather pleasantly surprised.
There's something so humbling about acting and the whole process of like, you dive into the work, you figure out the character, you do the audition, maybe you even get the role, but there's so much heartbreak, right? For every audition you do, 20 auditions you do, 50 auditions you do, you finally book one. It must have been nice to have Billy Corgan call you and go, yeah, like just get on the plane. You got the job.
Well, I mean, again, like the wrestling version of me and the acting version of me, like those are two different people, you know?
Okay.
Like I obviously I think like my resume in wrestling reads a little bit deeper than my resume in Hollywood. And that, I mean, that's true today. It certainly was true 5 years ago. But like Billy and I, when the first time we had met, it was at Impact. And we had just like, oh, hey, what's going on? We actually had a mutual friend from WWE and stuff. So like we kind of, you know, knew each other. We're like, at least we're saying what's up to, right?
Sure,
and so we get into like I meet him and like, okay, cool. Because again, like, okay, rock star, right? Like if you grew up in the 90s, all right, like, yes, it's the Smashing Pumpkins. Like, okay. Like everyone knows, like we know Pumpkin songs, like they're kind of ingrained in the subconscious of that generation, right?
Yep.
And now, I mean, dare I say, like some of those songs, right, where like Rat in a Cage, like all that, like it's you know, Bullet with Butterfly Wings is a song, but like everyone knows it, like the Rat in the Cage song, and like it's everywhere, like it's in video games, it's kind of this,
it's in movie trailers,
and that is like, okay, that's all great, right? But like when I met him, we get into this conversation about Roddy Piper and Adrian Adonis. And we're talking and like I can, as someone who has, you know, admittedly always thought outside the box when it comes to approaching wrestling, and like I've taken risks, admittedly. Like the way he was talking about the match, like I instantly was like, okay, like this guy knows what he's talking about. And like it completely went from like we have this like weird wrestling relationship where like even to this day, right? Like there was a tag team that they were at a show that we were both at, and like the second I saw those people, I was like, oh god, here we go. Like I saw that team, and like I saw Billy kind of do the same thing, and then we looked at each other. It was like, okay, you know what I mean? Like we see the business, I think, through a very similar lens in terms of like what it is art. Because it is. It's like a lot of people, like they'll look at wrestling and so excuse me, I'm going to grab a beverage.
Please, I will do the same.
Yeah. I should probably reload.
All right.
Just going okay?
This has been fantastic. And I was just also thinking, sure, we had the long interview 5 years ago. I did do an interview with you at NWA. Do you remember that? We did an interview as you were in character with the question mark.
We'll get into that if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah. So, do you feel like taking the time away from wrestling needed to happen for you to kind of reset, recharge, and look at it with a new set of eyes?
Yes, 100%. Because I was in, you know, admittedly just a very interesting place in my life, right? Like it wasn't the best spot, shall we say, right? Like we're, you know, and again, like I'm as people, right? Like not just as performers, but as humans, like we have this this spectrum of emotions that we go through, right? And as we get to different points in our life, right? Depending on circumstances, you know, or a number of circumstances, we can find ourselves in a good place, a bad place, or just like, you know, lost even, right? And I find that those times there where the most growth happens, because it's like, it's how you deal with it. You know, it's like, when I left the WWE, I was really not in a good place, and like I had let myself down, and you know, at the very least, let myself down, and I couldn't look in the mirror for like 18 months. Right, bottom line, like I was just like, I'd shave with the lights, all right, because it was just like this weird thing I was going through. But then, you know, eventually, like with anything, like it came to a point where I said, all right, like I'm the same guy who wrestled the Invisible Friggin' Man and made it work. Like what is wrong with me? Like and I had become, especially in Hollywood, which is like a weird thing, right? When like WWE, right? Okay, like they own the name Damien Sandow.
Yeah.
Right, but like no one can rock Sandow like I can.
Of course.
Okay, fine, right? Like it's
you
like,
are Damien Sandow.
Like Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, right? And like the list goes on and on. Like whoever like we are, right? At our best. I think we need to kind of hold on to that when we're at our worst, because that just reminds us of what we're capable of. And so I said, yeah, you know what? Okay. And I had some management, you know, and some representation out there, out in Cali, that I was like, no, you know what? They're not my kind of people. Like I have to at the very least, like be true to myself and not try to conform to, you know, lose 10 pounds, you like shave, you need to look more like this, you need to look more like that. And you need to be doing these kind of scenes. You need to be doing like, it's kind of like, shut up. You know what I mean? It's like, because at the end of the day, you know, in Hollywood, there's a game, right? And it's, I mean, there's not a game. There's multiple games being played on multiple different levels.
Yeah.
And this is no secret, right? And it's like, there's a saying, those who can't do teach, which is like, you know, is it true 100% of the time? No, because there's a lot of teachers like my acting coach is a working actor, you know, and that's like I booked more with him than anybody, right? So like he's actively doing it. He knows, like, you know, he's actively engaged in the process. And like people in Hollywood, I find like they sell this dream, and it's like completely void on many levels of just common sense, to where like you have to wake up and say, you know what? No, like you want me to do this kind of thing? Like you're an idiot. You know what I mean? Because at the very least, I have explained to you, I don't want to do this.
Hollywood's really just getting used to failing a lot.
Yeah.
Like you're getting auditions for things you probably aren't going to get, and you pour all the work into the audition, and then you wake up and you do it again the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it. Right. And then like, and it's weird because, like Magnum PI, I got through nepotism. I'm like, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I did have like, I had to audition and everything like that. It was like a whole thing, but,
we had an in.
Yeah. Like with anything.
Yeah.
But, it wasn't like snap your fingers. Sure. On the show. Like I had to get seen, you know what I mean? It was a recommendation.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp, and I think there's this common misconception that relationships have to be easy to be considered great. But sometimes the best relationships are when both people are willing to put in work to make it great. And therapy can be a great place to work through the challenges of any relationship, whether that's work, friends, a significant other, or anything else. If you've ever thought about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. I did, and it's completely changed my life. And it's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient and flexible and suited to fit your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Just visit betterhelp.com/insight to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/insight.
What about the Tim Robinson thing? Everyone talks about that.
Dude,
that
like,
thing went everywhere.
Okay, so like I had left LA,
Yeah.
you know, and because again, like what COVID's done, like all the auditions are on
They're all
on the
Zoom.
phone now, so
Yep.
it's great. So like I left LA and I was in Atlanta when I was on Heels, so I'm like living kind of in the Southeast right now, and get a phone call. Hey, read for this part, okay? Excuse me. Oh, you got the part. All right. Fly across the country, like a day, I think, a day or two. And all right, cool, we do it. And it had a great time. Like it was awesome. Like Tim was just chill. Really fun work environment. Everybody was cool. And then like months later, people are just like texting me on Instagram. I think like you even
Yeah.
I was like, what? Like how like I had no idea. And again, that skit, that's testament to the writing, and you know how good Tim is.
And the power of Netflix too. Like,
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah, but like,
it's everywhere.
but yeah, the pay it forward thing, and you know, I don't go to drive-throughs anymore, and I'm glad I don't, because I think if I ever came out, like maybe that'd be although I'd have to put that weird. They had me dressed in this weird thing, and like I'm like, why do I look like John Hamm's stunt double? Like, it doesn't, you know.
It's called I Think You Should Leave for anybody who doesn't know what we're talking about. And you're so brilliant in it.
Oh, thank you.
But
Thank
so
you.
when you dip your toe back into the acting world, do you not go, man, I kind of like this. Catering's a lot better here too.
Yeah, you know,
Catering is a lot better.
okay, yeah, well, it depends on what project you're on. like I've Jen, I don't know if she's still at WWE, but Jen from catering, she was awesome. Like when I was there, that was like Jen, two thumbs up. She was always great with you know, there'd always be the right kind of
Yeah.
lemon mascarpone
Oh
on a
my
Tuesday.
gosh.
Like, yeah.
Was the toughest thing about leaving WWE, was it that your identity was attached to, I was a WWE superstar and now I don't know what I am?
The long answer to that question is yes, but like the deeper answer is I had to make peace with myself that wrestling was part of who I am. Cause like, and it's funny, right? Like, I think the reason that I'm able to perform at the level I perform at is, and by the way, like, it's funny when you work with people, because like at NWA, I even have this reputation of like, I don't really talk a lot in the back. Like I'll just, you know what I mean? When you go out there, it's just like do it,
Yeah.
you know? Because that to me was that's where the fun is. But it's an interesting place to be, right? Like when you can just kind of like have this realization, right? That like, although things didn't turn out the way you wanted, although, you know, you put yourself on this trajectory from the time you were whatever age, and like I was always used to accomplishing every single goal I had, right? Like I'd find a way to do it. And then, you know, you find yourself in a spot, and again, I don't want to get into like the why, like people, like when they look at my career, like there's a lot of like, why did this happen? What the reality is, you know, it did happen for whatever reason. And like, I've heard theories, but like, I don't even want to publicly say them, because it's like, it's not, you know, it's not for me to say, because I don't know if they're true or not. Right.
Sure.
So, and like, it's not going to improve my situation for talking about it. It's not that, you know, if I had to break any news, it would be to you, Chris. But
Thank you.
yeah, but no, it was just like essentially like saying, all right, enough. Like I have to evolve, right? Like so many people in the industry, it's like they try to hang on to this image, the snapshot of who they were at their prime.
Yeah.
And although like we should embrace like who we are, right? And who we were at all periods of our life. You know, provided we weren't axe murderers or anything like that. But like, you know, in terms of like this linear development as people, it's important to evolve, right? So like for me, like the current character I'm doing now, it really is kind of like this cornucopia or chop suey or like whatever. Chop suey is probably the better analogy in this case, but of like the bits of my personality, like there's a little bit of everything sprinkled in there, and like if you ask like anyone like really close to me, like they'll say like the character that I'm playing in NWA, it's not that far off from who I am. You know what I mean? And like, because I'm always like, you know, I'm the one that's usually always like cutting up and trying to make light of a situation.
You do tremendous work.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
And actually, I brought your name up when I had Billy Corgan on the show a handful of months ago. And we were just talking about how supremely talented that you are.
Oh, thank you, man.
You take one little idea and you turn it into a great promo or a great moment or a great storyline. And that is a gift. Not everybody has that. There's a lot of managers out there. Not every manager is great, though.
Oh, thank you. Well, the thing is, though, I think I would argue, and it's just a theory of mine, right? But like anyone that gets into the wrestling business, at some level, you have to have a wire or two that like isn't quite connected or crossed with something else, right? Like there has to be like that little, if anything else, like why would you want to beat yourself up, you know, and like and put yourself through what you have to go through and all the BS of it. And so at some level, like something spoke to you enough to say, I want to like not be like all these other people, and I want to try this, right? So like whatever that thing is, and like when you talk about that little, like taking something small and making it into something else, like it's like the art of turning straw into gold, right? As they or Rumpelstiltskin or lead into gold, and as the alchemist would say.
Sure.
But not to get too esoteric, but
we can go there.
Oh, fine, yeah, we can do a spirituality. Yeah, that's great. But no, like what you have to find your why, I call it. And that's like I tell people that when they ask me for character advice, you have to find your why. Like, why did I get into wrestling? And you have to be very honest with yourself. Is it because I find some weird consolation and I can get anyone to chant my name or hate me or pretty much do anything I want because I just go out there and talk? And just like, and I need that adulation. Does it console me on some weird level? Is it because I want money? Is it because I like the idea of going somewhere and people knowing who I am? Like you have to be very like really honest with yourself at that level. And then once you kind of find your why, you can just spin that into whatever you wanted to.
So
and like,
you mean asking yourself your why,
yes.
not your character.
No, yourself. You have to be like, why did Chris decide to get into wrestling? You know, were you always fascinated with this end of it?
Yes. I mean, I trained to be a pro wrestler.
Yeah. Like, so like, why did you like at what point, like in your life, right? So like you're, how old were you when you got into wrestling?
16, probably, like really hardcore into wrestling.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like then to get into like to go to wrestling school.
Yeah.
Like when did you
20.
make
20
okay, so like you're 20 years old and you then like at what point do you remember being a 20-year-old saying like, I'm gonna sign up for wrestling school?
I was a backyard wrestler and me and my buddy had a pact that when the summer between it was sophomore and junior year, we were gonna go. He didn't end up going. I did.
It's actually a very similar situation with me and a friend of mine. We were just talking about that the other night. That's crazy. we went to wrestling school. Yeah, we had a backyard. Yeah, that's crazy. But like, all right, so like, why did you like get in a backyard? Like what made you? Because this is
isn't there? There's a thing. It's like the 5 whys, right? Because you ask the first why, and then why'd you do that? Well, then why'd you do that? If you can get 5 whys into it and you still have answers, you're onto something.
Yeah. So like, whatever made you, because you saw it on TV and you thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Right. Like, all right. Whatever reason it was.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to psychoanalyze you on
your
show.
I love it.
Although when I go to battle arts, I do it to people that have trouble with characters. It's actually quite fun.
But then what's your why? Because I'm sure you figured it out.
Yeah, my why. So essentially, I was 5 years old. and I lost an arcade game. I had to stand on the stool to play it. I was just a little thing, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was pressing the buttons, but it happened to be a pro wrestling game, and I lost. And then the character was taunting me, and I remember I'd gotten upset, and I said, "I'm going to be a wrestler." And it was weird, like, and I know that's like, for whatever reason, my brain just said, "Okay, like that's something I'm going to, like, at some point in my life, like I'm going to have a relationship with this industry," and I don't know what it is, but I always kind of felt this weird, like I belong there. And then like getting into it, like at Kowalski's at 16, like, man, you talk in education. Okay. Like, so I went to Catholic school, Holy Name Junior Senior High School in Worcester. It has now merged with St. Peter Marian, and it's another name, but I am publicly going to say that Holy Name was doing much better because of Mr. Reynolds and should have won that war. But I will leave that to the Diocese of Worcester and the bishop. I'm just saying Holy Name was a better high school. I am publicly saying that. I'd like to any Holy Name graduate out there, you know what I'm talking about. And thank you, Mr. Reynolds, for everything. So like I was in Catholic. We had some nuns, but it was a very kind of like a strict but nurturing environment for a high school. And then as I'm a junior, like I get into pro wrestling, and I'm now at Killer Kowalski's Institute of Professional Wrestling on the weekends.
Wow.
And although I was like, a bigger kid in high school and stuff, like, you go from like a big 16-year-old is not a big 21, 25-year-old,
Sure.
like a different world. Right. So I always have bruises on me and stuff. And I remember one time, like a famous wrestler on TV on WCW, he put me in a hold, and it, like, some blood vessels behind my eyes popped, and I had to wear sunglasses to my prom. And that was kind of fun.
Because you went to Killer Kowalski's. Did like Triple H go, I trained there too, like,
no,
one of us?
No, I mean, no, like, and nor, you know what? And I wouldn't have wanted that because like I have a weird thing as a pro where, and people say, oh, like you should politic more. I never wanted to, because, and that may have been my own ego, to where like, look, like I try to be a decent human being. Don't do anything that's going to embarrass the company. Show up to work and like, let that speak for itself. And like, if I have to lower myself as a man, or as a human, like I'm not willing to do that. And, when I was at that point where I said, like, I couldn't look in the mirror for about 18 months. Eventually that 18 months ended. And when I could look in the mirror, I was like, all right, cool. Because had I gone the other route, I just wouldn't have felt like, for the rest of my life, like I would have felt like I did the wrong thing. And like, so like people say, my career, it should have been this, it should have been that. And like everyone has their take on whatever. But no, at the end of the day, my career was what it was. I made the choices I made, and I stand by them. And like, I'm fortunate enough to where I have developed this skill set, that if I want a job in pro wrestling, I can get one. And I'm like, right now I am completely where I want to be. I feel like where I need to be.
It's great.
Because it's this, it's definitely like, again, we don't say the word family, but like, we don't have to. Because, and if you ask anyone that's kind of been around us or been to an NWA show, they're like, whoa, like you guys, from everybody. And we succeed together as a team, and that's what we just want to keep doing more of. Because like the show has kind of gotten its soul now, as I say.
When you say that you made these decisions and you stand by them, a lot of those decisions were made for you, though. There were a lot of things that like happened without your control. And do you just go, well, those are also things that I just have to accept?
Well, those are byproducts of the decisions I was or wasn't making.
Okay.
To kind of, endear yourself to certain people, shall we say, right?
Do you think you could have pushed, and we can't play a game of what if, but could you have pushed or politicked to go, nobody's ever tried to cash in, and not won the championship. I'm not going to be that guy.
I could have, but in the long run, it would have been futile. You had to look at the bigger picture. We were going up against Monday Night Football in the World Series, I believe. And like, look, as a performer, right? Like no matter what anyone says, right? And like I said, the internet's an interesting place now in 2023. And I've really, for the most part, been extremely blessed of the feedback I've gotten from the internet fans and just like fans in general.
Yeah.
Not to get off subject again, but like when like I walk into a store and someone recognizes me, and because I really kind of don't look like Sandow anymore, but like, you're my so-and-so's favorite wrestler, and they don't even watch wrestling. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten that compliment, because that's like, I want to appeal to everybody. Yeah. Like wrestling fans, if they see me, like one way or another, like they are getting everything I have, whether it's a promo, a match, like I am putting every ounce of energy I have into that performance every single night.
Yeah. And
the non-wrestling fan that or just happens to be flipping through the channels or happens to be at a show, if you can kind of make them go, ooh, you know, that is the cool thing, because that's how you attract more and more people, and it's better for the business that way. So like I try to appeal to like some element, right? Like if I can hit upon something in the human condition that it essentially is your broader audience, which is everybody, you know, that's better for everybody. So like I'm not trying to work for like a criticism, you know, like again, don't want to get into star ratings. I mean, we will if you want to, but like people are entitled to opinions and it's wonderful. But the magic of pro wrestling, it is just disappearing. And you know what? Like when people, they can say what they want to say about NWA, but like if you do not allow magic to happen or the room for magic to happen, when you are so scripted to where every single word is laid out and you're so worried about the opinion of one or two people, like judging you based on acrobatics, and you know you're so worried about the people in the ring, right? And the people that are behind the scenes, and you're not worried about the people buying tickets. Like when you're more worried about the people inside of the ring than outside of the ring, there's an issue. And philosophically at NWA, like, no, like we are about the people outside the ring. And there are numerous opportunities for talent to exercise freedom that they would not be granted elsewhere. And like, that's what we try to push, right? And by we, I mean, you know, everybody there, like the people that have been doing this a minute, and Billy himself, like grab those opportunities and create some magic. Like whether it's you make them fall in love with you as a character, or you create this moment. And if you're not the most popular character, you have at least created something to where they go, ooh,
yeah,
okay. And you're that much more recognizable. And there is such a difference. And I like, I've done a couple seminars, and because when people agreed to like, okay, I'm not teaching moves, like this is going to be more of a psychological thing, a presentation thing. Like, and I've coined the phrase, like, we are not wrestlers who are on TV. If you are, okay, you won't be over. You'll be just like everyone else in kick pads and tights with hologram flashy things on them that look cool and whatever. And you'll do your match and they'll go ooh and ah if you hit a move. And then they'll bring the next match out and they'll forget about you because they'll see something else. So that's a wrestler on TV. We need to be TV stars who wrestle. Now, when I say that, that does not negate, like, and because here's another thing, and this is a virus plaguing the wrestling industry today. There's a lot of people who are borderline untrained. And by that, there was a basic skeleton of like what you had to have at the minimum to be able to like to get in the business and get opportunities in major companies, and like the standard across the board, right, has fallen extremely low.
Mm.
And again, I'm not trying to criticize. Like, there's a few amazing schools out there. Like again, like OVW still there. Like the people again, EC3, like his camp going on, Exodus Pro, right? Like there's people doing it. And what NWA, on one level, like the territory system, it's like we want to help bring the standard up again of like what wrestling is, because the true art of this, the storytelling, right? The who is this guy? Who is this girl? Who is this character that I'm looking at, right? As opposed to, oh, wrestling, what are they going to do? Like, I ever told you about, there's 3 positions, and this is something that, like, I teach the seminar, so I'm sure it'll be stolen from me, but that's fine. 3 positions people watch wrestling in.
Okay.
Position number 1, and this is, like, consume any product in, really,
Okay.
right? Like, any entertainment. Position number 1, we're going to make believe I have a cell phone.
Okay. That's position number 1.
You're casually watching it.
Yeah.
It's back. It's like, whatever. Okay. Position 2.
Okay. You're actively watching. Okay.
Yes, you have a rooting interest. Like you're engaged. In position 3 is up out of your seat, having some kind of emotional expression. Like, oh, that happened. Oh no, right? Like that's like when the finish of a match. 3 positions. We want position 2 and ultimately 3, right?
Yeah.
So how do we keep rooting interest? It's how we dress. When we come through the curtain, what colors do we wear? How do we walk? What do we do when they first see us? And like these are things that at NWA we're starting to instill to try to train people to not only be good television wrestlers, but really be good professional wrestlers in general, because there's not much difference between working a live crowd and TV. In terms of like, look, when you work TV, yes, you have to be conscious of where the cameras are. But in terms of your timing, in terms of like letting people appreciate what you're doing as an artist.
Yeah.
There's that element that's missing, right? And so that's, again, like, say what you want about NWA, and it's funny, more people are talking about us. More people are getting on board, which is cool now. Like our live events have been like really successful to the point that we're all like, wow, like ever since we've hit a certain point, we're just like, trying to keep all the good stuff going, as we say. And again, learning as a company, having fun, and just trying to present a true alternative, and kind of fill in the void of what a lot of us think is missing in wrestling.
I feel like we all knew how talented you were when we saw Damien Sandow, but Damien Mizdow, I feel like, took it to a whole new level, because that's an opportunity, I think, that if it was given to anybody else, they would have fumbled it. You took that and you ran with it, and then you got more over than the guy who you were with.
Well, no, I mean, and I think like there was no Mizdow without Miz, right? And like, if I didn't have a subject to base my satire on, right? Like I wouldn't have had that. So like that's testament to like the timing Miz and I had, and Miz and I are I say we're friends, yeah. Like we haven't really talked or anything, but like if we saw each other, it would be cool. Like there'd be a what's up, man, and like we came up in OVW and stuff, and out there though, like we had timing about, and because that's all that was like, Miz doing his thing and then allowing me to do my thing and then going into it, and he was very, very cool about it. And like our best moments were not discussed, truly. They weren't. Like we didn't talk about them. Like we just, like, they happened organically.
Did you tell him you were going to start taking bumps on the outside of the ring?
No, that was born out of boredom. I was on Raw. I'm like, what am I doing here? But the thing was, right, like that I had the thing happen with the briefcase, and then they start like giving me what I thought was a push. Then 2 weeks later, I'm dressing up as different people. All right, whatever. Here we go. I embraced that. They put me with Miz. The only reason Mizdow worked is because I was on television consistently. And if you put me in a role consistently on television, right?
Yeah.
Like if I go to any company, like any owner of any company, right? And I would say this now, like, and I can say this with, I hope this does not sound braggadocious or whatever, but like this is just based on kind of my calculations.
Yeah. Hey, don't be
Like,
humble for a second.
No,
Yeah.
but based on this, the knowledge I've acquired,
Yeah.
if you give me 30 seconds for 3 to 4 weeks,
Yeah.
I will be able to get myself over.
Yeah.
No problem. If you give me 60 seconds, we'll be selling t-shirts.
Wow.
Because there is an art to how you do this, right? And now again, that's 30 seconds of like I would need some creative freedom in there.
Sure.
But like wrestling shouldn't be hard because it isn't hard. And I think now where developmental systems are great, but in the more kind of under a microscope developmental, because I've been in both and I've been involved in both, like I had never learned more in OVW when I had got to like sit under learning trees I did there. And OVW, like I'm a Kowalski guy and I will always like that is who broke me in, that is who gave me my break. Again, Mike Hollow, who was the head trainer at Kowalski's, he I guess has a wrestling school up in New Hampshire, and if anyone's in the Northeast, like dare I say, like I would recommend going to Mike's school. Mike had a very big hand in like laying my foundation to where technically I knew how to bump, I knew how to feed, and then like OVW, like I just learned it was psychology on a completely different level, to be around the people and to actually work a territory, to actually go and have spot shows and do angles on TV and have to kayfabe, like we couldn't be seen together out in public, and it was just really cool. And then again, like the Paul Heymans of the world coming in and taking over, and it was just one thing led to another. But like, and I know he's controversial, and people, they give him whatever shade they want to sling his way, right? But bottom line, like Jim Cornette taught me, I would say, damn near 50% of everything that I know about the business today.
Wow.
Like, and it was just like, it wasn't like I was having these like in-depth conversations with him every single night. No, working for him. Like the first time you ever do an angle on TV and you have to take it around the horn to a house show, like what do people want to see, right? And that's just like where the like the finer points of ring psychology come in, that God, they get lost today, and it's so sad, to where like as a heel, right? If you've told this story and a baby face is just like, you don't have to do anything but just back up and let it happen. Like let the crowd happen, because you'll get yours at some point. It's like people trying to cram 5 pounds of rocks in a 2-pound bag, and by rocks, like that expression is usually something other than rock. Like that's what it is, right? And just like remember, it's about the people outside the ring, not the people inside the ring. And I'm sorry, you've asked a question and we have gone off on a tangent.
I love it,
but like, yeah, it's.
I think a lot of people don't remember the time that Cody Rhodes spent with you.
Yeah.
Rhodes Scholars.
Yeah.
Did you see the Cody that we have now? Did you see that 10 years ago?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, Cody and I, we were a very, I would say, like in terms of the totality of wrestling, like we were a very underrated tag team.
Yeah.
If you look at what we did in the matches we've had with various people, and we did like we tagged for a minute, and like we traveled together and stuff, and it was
tag team champions.
Yeah. Did we ever win the title?
Didn't you?
I don't know.
I have all the world's information.
I don't think we
here.
did.
Let me see.
But like Miz and I did.
That's maybe what I'm thinking of.
But no, like Cody, he has always had a drive and a determination about him, and I'm just very, very glad that he has he's kind of like reached.
You won the tag team contender, #1 contender tournament with Cody.
Okay.
there. No, we were going to get corrected in the comments anyway.
But exactly. But no, like I'm just very, very happy he's determined and again taking the risk that he has and staying true to who he is.
Mm.
And I think that's just wonderful because like when you see someone stay true to who they are, you know, whatever that truth is, because like only they can define it, but they kind of reach, you know, the apex of what they would like to be. That's awesome.
So to bring this around full circle, 5 years ago when we had our last full conversation, you had both feet firmly planted in the acting world.
Mm-hmm.
As we sit here right now, are both feet firmly planted in the pro wrestling world?
No, I'm straddling.
Okay.
You know, I'm straddling. There's like there's a couple things going on. Like I had a movie that is going to be out. I think is it? No, I'm sorry. It's next week. It comes out. I was going to actually.
What movie is it?
It's called The Oath. I was going to go to the premiere, but travel wise, like it just didn't line up. But it's got Billy Zane in it. It's wonderful.
Great.
You know, Billy Zane was really cool to work with. It was like he was one of those guys. So like this is the first movie I did after the pandemic, right? So this is like 2021, and we're filming in upstate New York, and I am Billy Zane's assassin. Like his like
you played a lot of bad guys.
Yeah, it's cool. I dig it. That's why like the black thing works for me. So I'm in the makeup chair with him, and we're kicking it, and he could not be cooler. Which I was just like, because like again, you think like right, okay, like there's wrestling people, which I don't care. I'm actually very comfortable in front of wrestling people, but like Hollywood people, like what's the deal, right?
Yeah.
So like you're playing in someone else's sandbox.
Sure.
So I'm just kind of going on whatever vibe, right? But he's cool. What's up, man? So like we start talking, and just some of the advice he gave me, it was it was just good, and a lot of it, it's funny because again, how you present yourself, it was very, very similar to like advice I give people in terms of how to present themselves on TV, right? And in life, right? We don't want to admit it sometimes, but like when we see somebody as humans, we have to make up our minds. Like there's this quick like survival assessment thing,
Yeah.
right?
Instantly.
Yeah. And there's that primal function that goes on in the brain as you see somebody, whether they're a wrestler or like whatever, right? Like anyone that's getting ready to speak, when they come up and you see them,
Yep.
you go,
Yep.
and then you make up your mind.
Yes.
So how do we do that? Like there's a reason I chose the Hallelujah chorus, because everyone knows that song and it is obnoxious to come down to it. So like that says volumes about me without me having to do anything. And it was like all done, you know, very kind of symbiotically.
You think about this on such a deep level.
Yeah, because and here's the thing, well, like with wrestlers, like it's wrestling has this
No, we've done a total of 4 interviews together. Really, just one long one, but one is Damien Sandow, the character. We just pulled it up before we hit play on this interview. You were signing autographs at WrestleMania Access with the big feather pen.
I love that thing.
Then we did an interview where I spoke with Aron and we just chatted. And then there was the interview with you and Question Mark, and you remained in character and you were saying karate. And that, I mean, you were deep into that character. And then the world shut down. And
that was crazy how, and like I thought what a first kind of like the first chapter in the Lightning One era of NWA. So it was like from the inception of it to like the pandemic.
Yeah. That was January of 2020. So like little did we know what was going to happen 60 days later.
Yeah.
Not even 50 days later.
Yes. Right. And like that had just happened organically, to where he had the Question Mark character, and he and I were sitting down in the bleachers, and he's asked me, so what should we do? And he was a friend of mine, so I was very excited to be working with him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you need to become a karate master. What? I go, yeah. And like, because the reason the Question Mark worked, right? Okay, like, well, like I love it when it just catches on and it's working. Like, no, there's a reason things happen. There's a reason people react to certain people a certain way.
Yeah.
you just have to kind of dig a little bit. And the reason the question mark character worked so well, if you looked at what the NWA was, right, and it's associated with, you know, the wrestling, and when I say that, we all know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
It's that old Southern style. You know, you got good guy, bad guy, you know, good versus evil.
Yep.
Here we go, and like it is what it is, right? The question mark embodied. He was like the personification of that era, right? Physically, like when you looked at him aesthetically,
Yeah.
like his tights, those tights were actually like Lawler's old tights. I was
Wow.
told, like he got them from Tony Falk or something, and Tony Falk got them from Lawler, and Lawler had a pair of tights similar to that. I mean, they had like the old knee pads sewn in, like the old school, like K&H stuff, which is like, if you know what K&H is, you're a real wrestling fan. If you don't, well, hey, you know, sorry about it. But like, so there was that. So then what we had to do, like, we had to take that authenticity
Yeah.
on the outside and bring a level of authenticity inside, right? So like there was like the execution of this character would match, right? And then, you know, when you have the execution of it and the performance of it meets the, or I say execution meets the, you know, the aesthetics of it, when you kind of have that, that's when you can really kind of bloom on TV, right? Like The Rock have it, Stone Cold, right?
Sure.
Like
Damien Sandow had it.
But no, I mean, it's just like, yeah, like any of us, right? That have kind of, like with you, right? Like you've branded yourself a certain way, right? Like there are certain aesthetics associated with Chris Van Vliet.
Sure.
And that's just marketing. That's just how, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the game. That's the game we're in. That's the business we're in. So I was like, hey, Jen, you need to be a karate master. What? Like, yeah, like old school 1970s, 1980s. You come from a faraway land and they're bringing you in to work dusty. Like they're going to build you up for 6 months and you're going to have this hold, like the Mongrovian spike. And well, we originally said Mongolia, and then like it was Billy's idea. He's like, Monrovia, we're going to create a country. And then the question mark's brother created the flag. And then from the flag, like we're born a race of karate practicing people with question mark masks on. And like, it was just this weird, bizarre thing that like when they say too many cooks can spoil the broth.
Sure.
The right combination of cooks, though, can make it awesome. You know what I mean? Like when everyone kind of brings their thing to it. And man, like that was just so much fun with him. And I, you know, I've lost people close to me, like way more than I'd like to. And you know, God, this last year alone. But when he passed, it hit hard, and it's still to this day at NWA, like we hang the Mongrovian flag. Like you have all the flags of the world and everything, and then there's like the Mongrovian flag, and that's just kind of like that's our little tribute to like the spirit of what that was.
Yeah.
And that is what NWA is, right?
Yeah.
Like we want that magic to happen. And again, like, you know, everything is trial and error, but man, when something hits and we say it all the time, right? And I say we collectively, everybody at NWA, when pro wrestling is done correctly, there's nothing like it in the world. And no matter who you are.
Where did you start seeing the rumors that you were tied into the Elias storyline?
Oh yeah. Cause again, like I just don't watch really.
Yeah.
You know, I watch enough NWA. Like people are hitting me up on Instagram and stuff enough to where I was like looking into it. I'm like, oh, all right. I mean, you know, like the truth is I haven't had any contact with anyone from WWE since I left. I have not reached out to them, and like my life is really cool right now. And again, like you never say never, but like I just like I can't see myself going back there and doing anything. Like I think they were again like a part of my life that I'm very grateful for, but at the same time, like when you just felt like you're on to other things, right? Like you have other mountains to climb.
Yeah.
You know, at some point, maybe they'll be part of that mountain, right? Like maybe you take a detour,
but they're part of a journey that's happened like this. It's something you've already done.
Yeah. And again, like, this isn't like, I'm not sitting here like ruling out, like, no, because look, if circumstances line up, you end up anywhere.
Sure.
Like, I can end up working for New Japan at the circuit, but I doubt we'd see that. But
this would be a great Royal Rumble return.
Yeah. I mean, right now, like, I'm under contract with NWA, and there's you know, like to a point, right? As much as a performer can, because I don't want to, like, undying loyalty, like I'm kind of fighting for some like religious cause here or anything like that. Like, no, like, but as much as a performer can, and I say this, and I say that with all sincerity, like, there is a loyalty level, and there's like I never thought I would have that loyalty level again, you know?
Yeah.
And like once like my loyalty goes, like, via, you know, person or company, I'm fine with, like, maintaining a cordial relationship with whatever, and you should, right? You should, like, for just leading a healthy life, like, that's the thing. But in terms of me saying, like, okay, like, you're my people now, like, you're in my circle, you know, I just, circumstances have dictated that, like I care about a lot of people in that company, like, I want to see them succeed.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, someone who has been kind of selfish, business wise, as much as I have to be, I guess, in terms of the amount of thought I put into other people, right? I want to see everybody succeed, but like I don't really go out of my way to help a lot of people. And some ask for it, and I do. And, it's been very rewarding. And, you know, you want to see them develop not only as performers, but as human beings, because, like anything else, right? Like any business, there's a shady side, like, you know, a dark side of the ring. And, which, you know, a lot of those documentaries are pretty eye opening, I think, to the public. And, yeah, it's just like, you want to just leave the business better than when you found it.
Sure.
Yeah.
You've mentioned the word gratitude so many times throughout this conversation. And that's where I always end every interview. By the way, good to catch up with you.
Oh, this has been great.
It's been
Yes, like,
long
congrats
time.
on the family. And, like, I know I already told you, but
Thank you.
I'm telling you in our little online personas, congratulations, Chris.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
All my best to the missus. You know?
She's great.
Yeah.
The little girl's great. It's hard to be away from. It
Yeah.
really is. She's 6 months old right now.
Oh, well.
I'm super grateful for them, and gratitude's a big part of my life. At the end of every interview now, I ask my guests, what are 3 things that you're grateful for in your life?
Oh, well, health, number one. Yeah, God. I'm really lucky when it comes to health. You know, family, because I've had this, like, period where I've, like, reconnected with my family in a lot of ways, and that's cool. And, like, the ability that all of us have, for my third thing, to be able to go forward in the midst of whatever circumstances we're in. And I know we've touched upon that. Like, I hope this interview wasn't too dark, but like kind of like periods of my life that, you know, as you kind of like fluctuate, right?
I actually think that through you saying that, a lot of people that are dealing with stuff go,
Yeah,
it's okay to deal with it. I'll get out. I'll be okay on the other side of it.
yes. And you will, right? It's just, it's how you have to choose to fight. Like, you have to remember who you are. So that's all.
What a great way to end it.
Yeah.
Aron, so good to see you.
Likewise. I hope to do it again.
We will.
Yeah.